She planned the perfect bachelorette weekend. What came back wasn't laughter and stories, but a viral video that shattered marriages, humiliated a town, and left one husband with only one choice: destroy everything she ever cared about. Let's begin. Marina Hale was the kind of woman people trusted, not because she asked them to, but because she made them feel seen. She listened. She remembered birthdays. She smiled with her eyes, not just her mouth. And when her younger sister Talia got engaged, no one doubted Marina would throw the most unforgettable bachelorette weekend imaginable. What no one knew was that it would be unforgettable for reasons no one would ever forgive. The Hale sisters had always been close. Raised in the quiet town of Fairbrook, Oregon, they'd survived everything from their mother's long illness to their father's cold temperament. They had secrets only sisters could keep, like how Talia once faked chickenpox to avoid her prom date, or how Marina had once pawned her favorite necklace to pay for Talia's textbooks. Their bond was their armor. And when Talia asked her to plan something simple, genuine, and private, Marina took it personally. It wasn't just about nostalgia. It was about meaning, about reliving a time when things were still innocent. Kevin Hale, Marina's husband of 11 years, wasn't thrilled with the idea. He didn't say it out loud, not exactly, but the way his eyes flicked toward the calendar, the questions he asked that came laced with something tighter than concern, revealed his unease. 10 women in the woods for a weekend, he asked. No cell service. No accountability. Doesn't that sound a little risky? Marina laughed it off. You make it sound like we're heading to Vegas. It's just Talia, me, and some of her oldest friends. These are women who've known each other since they were in braces. Kevin gave her a half-smile. I know, but things happen. She kissed him then. Promised it would be wholesome. Promised it would be brief. Just one night, she whispered. One night to feel like sisters again. What Marina didn't know, what none of them knew, was that a storm had already begun forming. Not in the sky, but in the rooms of their rented countryside house. In the pockets of people who brought with them more than wine and old college stories. Some brought secrets, some brought cameras, and one brought revenge. The house was beautiful. Vintage wooden beams, warm lighting, wide porches wrapped in climbing ivy. The kind of place where laughter bounced off the walls and stayed floating in the air. By 7 p.m., the women had already poured their wine, lit candles, and slipped into matching pajama sets embroidered with Talia's name. They danced. They sang old pop songs. Talia did a silly toast. Marina gifted everyone handmade bracelets. The night was innocent, until it wasn't. Someone suggested a game. Truth or Dare, Bridal Edition. Talia was hesitant but gave in, and that's when the dancers showed up. Marina had booked them secretly, thinking it would be funny. A harmless surprise. Just 10 minutes of entertainment. But laughter turned into flirtation. Flirtation turned into touching. And what started as a joke slowly dissolved the line between celebration and betrayal. Someone took out a phone. Someone pressed record. The footage was short but damning. Talia dancing, pressed against a shirtless stranger. Marina laughing as another man looped an arm around her. Blurry faces. Dim lights. Giggling. And then a bedroom door shutting. The video would stay hidden for 3 days. Long enough for Marina to return home, kiss her husband, and pretend like nothing had happened. But Fairbrook had eyes. Fairbrook had people. And someone wanted the whole town to know exactly who Marina really was. Kevin Hale never liked surprises. He was the kind of man who double-checked locks twice before bed, who folded shirts by color, who needed the calendar on the fridge to stay updated, or he'd spiral in a quiet unease. So when his phone buzzed on a Wednesday morning, 3 days before Talia's wedding, with a message from Travis Landon, he already knew something was wrong. Dude, we need to talk. ASAP. This is serious. Attached was a video link. No words. No context. Just that. Kevin's stomach twisted into something dark and cold. Travis wasn't the kind of man to be dramatic. He was a father of 2, coached Little League, rarely swore. So if Travis sent something like this, it meant trouble. Kevin clicked the link. The video opened to familiar laughter. Marina's laugh. The house. He recognized it from the photos she'd shown him before the trip. Soft lighting, vintage walls, a fireplace flickering. Then the music shifted, and suddenly the camera panned. Talia was grinding on a shirtless man in the living room. Her friends screamed and clapped. Off to the left, Marina. Her arm was draped around another man. She giggled. She leaned in, and then they disappeared down a hallway. Kevin's vision went white. He watched the video again, hands trembling, pausing frame by frame, zooming in, hoping, desperately, that it wasn't her, that it was some trick of the light. But there she was. Her laugh, her bracelet, the small scar on her neck from that ski accident in Lake Tahoe. His wife. His world cracked in half in 8 seconds. A second message buzzed in. Travis again. There are more clips going around. Some worse. Names are being tagged. Kevin couldn't breathe. He closed his laptop, grabbed his keys, and walked out. His thoughts weren't thoughts. They were heat, pressure, chaos. He drove with his teeth clenched, replaying every moment of the past week. The hug before she left, the way she promised. Nothing crazy. Just girl time. The kiss she gave him when she got home. The lie in her eyes. By the time he pulled into the driveway, Kevin wasn't furious. He wasn't even sad. He was numb. He walked in and found Marina in the kitchen, casually scrolling on her phone. A coffee cup sat half full next to her. She looked up, smiled. Hey, babe. You're home early. He didn't respond. He pulled out his phone, placed it on the table, and hit play. Marina leaned over. She froze. In seconds, her face changed. Confusion, horror, guilt. Her lips parted. Kevin, I can explain. No, he said calmly. You can't. She stepped toward him. He backed away. I saw everything, he said. Every second. And before you start spinning stories, know this. It's over. You killed it. I don't want to hear a single excuse. Please, she whispered, her voice shaking. It wasn't what it looked like. I was drunk. I didn't. You weren't too drunk to remember your vows, he said flatly. You were sober enough to lie to my face when you got back. Sober enough to smile while you betrayed me. Marina was trembling now. I just need to get my purse. My phone. Kevin walked to the front door. Opened it. Pointed out. You can come back for the rest. But right now, you leave. As you are. She stood frozen. Kevin, I love you. He didn't blink. Didn't move. Go. She turned slowly, walked through the doorway, and out of his life. The door closed behind her with a dull finality. Kevin stood there for a long while, staring at the wood grain, listening to the silence that used to be comfort, but now felt like ash. That night, he packed. He took only what he needed. His laptop, his father's old watch, a box of letters Marina had once written him, back when love was still real. And on the kitchen table, where she used to arrange fresh flowers, he left a note. You gave up our story for one night, but that night will echo forever. Then he locked the door and left. Not just the house, not just Marina. He left Fairbrook, because by then, the video wasn't just between friends. It had gone viral, and a whole town was about to burn. Fairbrook wasn't the kind of town you'd expect to make headlines. It was the kind of place where neighbors still waved, kids rode bikes without helmets, and baristas knew your order before you said a word. But all of that changed the day the Bachelorette video leaked. It started with whispers, then screenshots, then the full video dropped on a Facebook group meant for local event rentals. Someone tagged the location. Someone else recognized the women. And just like that, the town that prided itself on community turned into a courtroom without a judge. Kevin didn't stay to watch it burn. By the time the video hit every major group chat in town, he was already on the interstate heading toward Portland. But back in Fairbrook, everything was unraveling. Marina's sister, Talia, the bride-to-be, became the face of the scandal. Her wedding was canceled within 24 hours. The groom's family, blindsided and humiliated, withdrew every dollar they'd spent. The venue pulled out. The florist asked not to be associated. Talia stopped answering her phone. Marina tried to contain the explosion, but it was too late. Within 2 days, the video had spawned 5 more clips. Then 10. People began identifying faces. Not just Marina, not just Talia, but Heather McCall, Julia Hernandez, Beth DeWitt, Claire Simmons, and Anna Beckett. All respected women. All married. All now infamous. One husband, Travis Landon, packed Heather's belongings and left them on the lawn. When she arrived home, the locks were changed. He handed her a manila envelope. Custody papers, he said. I'm keeping the kids. You can keep your excuses. Julia came home to find a note taped to her closet door. You ruined everything. Her husband had moved out during her shift to the hospital. Beth tried to call her husband mid-shift. He didn't answer. Instead, he sent her a clip, her voice, her laugh, her silhouette stepping into a bedroom with someone else. No text, no voice, just the clip. He never came home again. Across town, coffee shop conversations turned into interrogations. Grocery store aisles became war zones. Parents pulled their kids out of school to avoid being associated. Teachers whispered in staff rooms. Church groups divided. Marriages that had nothing to do with the scandal started crumbling under the weight of new suspicions. Even the town sign wasn't spared. Someone sprayed it in bold red paint. Welcome to Fairbrook, home of the bachelorette betrayal. No one cleaned it, because no one wanted to touch it. The Hale family, once respected pillars of the community, became ghosts. Calvin Hale, the girl's father, tried to show his face at church, but the pews around him emptied one by one. People didn't yell. They didn't curse. They just turned their backs. He recorded a video, an attempt to clear the air. My daughters were raised with faith and discipline, he said, voice tight, eyes watery. But when they came home from college, they were different. I don't know what changed. The video went viral too. Some called it brave. Others said it was cowardice dressed as confession. No one knew the truth, and no one cared. The mob had moved on from facts. They wanted names. Shame. Fire. And Marina? She shut down. She left the house. Applied for jobs in cities she'd never visited. Changed her phone number. Deleted her social media. Still, her name got there before she did. At interviews, hiring managers looked at her with thin smiles. Some didn't shake her hand. One whispered to a colleague, unaware she could hear, "That's her. That's the one from the video." The group chat, the one she'd made for the bachelorette weekend, was in chaos. Messages exploded. Who filmed it? Was it one of the dancers? Did someone set us up? Heather wrote, "We were drunk. We didn't see anyone filming." Anna snapped, "So now you think this was a trap?" Julia replied, "It doesn't matter. It's out. Everyone's seen it." And finally, Marina's last message. "Knowing who filmed it doesn't change the fact that I destroyed my marriage. That I lied. That I lost him." Then she left the chat. 2 others followed. No goodbyes. Just silence. The damage was done, and the fire had no interest in who lit the match. It just wanted to burn everything that followed. Marina didn't sleep for 3 nights after Kevin left. She lay in the bed they used to share, staring at the ceiling, the sheets cold on her side. Every sound in the house felt louder. The ticking of the clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the quiet cry that built in her chest and refused to come out. She didn't eat, couldn't. Every bite reminded her of mornings spent together, of Kevin cooking eggs in boxers, of them arguing playfully over syrup or jam, of the Sunday rituals they'd built like little bricks of love. Gone. She stared at the empty doorway more than she looked at her own reflection. When the divorce papers finally arrived, she didn't even cry. She stared at the envelope like it was a death certificate, not of a person, but of every good thing she'd ever had. Every photo, every memory, every inside joke between them. She signed them, but she didn't expect to see Kevin at the courthouse. He entered with calm precision, hair shorter than she remembered, face leaner, shoulders set like steel. Marina stood slowly when she saw him, her throat catching. She opened her mouth to speak, to whisper his name, but he didn't even look at her. He walked past her like she was a stranger, signed the forms, turned, left. No glance, no farewell, just silence. And in that silence, Marina broke. What she didn't know, what none of the women knew, was that Kevin wasn't just moving on. He was making sure the truth stayed public. Kevin had quietly sent the video to 3 local news blogs, not to get revenge on Marina, but because he knew people like her often rewrote history, played victim, twisted the truth, and he couldn't let that happen. Not after what she'd done. His actions triggered a domino effect. A journalist in Eugene connected the video with a canceled wedding. Then another blog exposed connections between the women and local business leaders. One of them, Anna's husband, was running for city council. Suddenly, this wasn't just a scandal. It was a wildfire with a name and a path. Anna's husband dropped out of the race, claimed stress, cited family matters. But everyone knew. Claire's bakery faced boycotts. Yelp flooded with 1-star reviews. Customers slipped notes in the tip jar. Maybe keep your hands out of more than the cookie dough. Beth's teenage daughter came home from school, crying, after someone showed her the video in a bathroom stall. Beth withdrew her from school the next day. But by then, the damage was done. The video hadn't just exposed infidelity. It had exposed the lie the town lived under. That reputation mattered more than truth. That smiles were always real. That some women could never fall. And Kevin? He stayed quiet. He didn't speak to reporters. Didn't share his story. But behind the scenes, he was methodical. He filed for emotional damages in the divorce. He transferred joint accounts. He sold a house. Donated her clothes. Burned the anniversary letters she had written by hand. He moved in with his brother outside Portland. Started building a new life. A new job. A new gym. A therapist. A dog. A quiet routine. But the scars remained. Not just the betrayal, but the betrayal of someone who had once been his best friend. The woman who knew how he liked his coffee. Who knew his greatest fear. Who promised forever. And tossed it aside for a weekend thrill. Kevin began journaling every night. Not because he wanted to heal, but because he didn't want to forget. He wrote down every lie. Every moment she manipulated his trust. Every time she pretended to love him when, clearly, she didn't even respect him. Because for Kevin, moving on didn't mean forgiving. It meant remembering exactly what she did, so that if she ever tried to rewrite it, he'd have the truth carved into ink and memory. Forever. 6 months later, Fairbrook was quiet, but not in the comforting way it used to be. Stores had closed. Families had moved. A slow rot crept through the town's identity. It was no longer known for its farmers' markets or summer parades. It was the town with that scandal. The bachelorette betrayal that made national news. A cautionary tale with names and faces people wouldn't forget. Marina had tried to leave. She moved to Boise under her maiden name, Marina Carter, hoping anonymity could erase memory. But shame doesn't vanish in a new zip code. It follows. In glances. In whispers. In interviews that shift tone the second someone Googles you. She picked up work as a server. A far cry from the graphic design career she'd built for a decade. Customers stared. Some whispered. One left a note that read, "Do your vows still taste like wine and regret?" Talia disappeared from social media entirely. She stayed with a cousin in Colorado for a while, tried therapy, tried reinventing herself, but depression clung to her like damp clothes. The wedding that never happened played in her dreams like a broken record. She thought about messaging her ex-fiancé, begging, explaining, but in the end, she deleted his number. The group chat, once filled with laughter, emojis, late-night confessions, was now a digital graveyard. Unread messages. Silence. Shame. The kind of silence that screams. One by one, the women turn on each other. Claire blamed Marina for booking the dancers. Beth claimed she was peer-pressured. Heather accused someone of leaking the video deliberately. Anna stopped responding altogether. Julia tried to apologize to the other husbands through a mutual friend. It didn't matter. They had already moved on. Or at least away. But the worst fallout wasn't public. It was private. It was in the children who stopped trusting their mothers. In the husbands who couldn't sleep on shared beds anymore. In the cold mornings, empty coffee mugs, and pictures thrown in trash bags. In the weight of knowing they did it to themselves. Kevin, meanwhile, had transformed. Not into a better version of himself, but into a quieter one. He didn't trust easily. He didn't laugh as much. But he was steady. He worked construction again. Something about breaking and rebuilding suited him. His dog, Benny, became his anchor. The only creature who didn't ask questions, didn't lie. One night, he got a letter. No return address. Just his name in a shaky script. Inside was a small card. It read, "I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope you found peace. M." Kevin stared at it for a long time. He didn't cry. He didn't curse. He took it to the fire pit in the backyard and lit a match. He watched it burn until only ash remained. That was the last time he thought of Marina Carter. Not because he had no feelings left, but because the man he was when he loved her no longer existed. In the end, Fairbrook became a warning. The welcome sign was eventually replaced, but the town never truly recovered. And the story? It lived on, in quiet corners of the internet, in whispered conversations at weddings, as a reminder that betrayal doesn't always wear horns. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it toasts you with champagne. And sometimes it's someone you once trusted with your forever.